Hello and welcome back to my channel. I love to have you back here. For those of you who are new, I'm Stefani, I'm a language enthusiast and a member of the International Association of Hyperpolyglots. I love language learning and I use this channel to share what I know. In today's video, I would love to talk about the psychology of language learning, since I think it is a very big determinant of success. When it comes to learning languages, a very big part of it is passion. Language learning is unlike any other activity in that it requires so much of being open, being passionate about what you're doing, having fun with what you're doing, and having confidence in yourself and your own abilities. It is, of course, you can say that having confidence in yourself, it helps you master any ability and any skill. But in particular with language learning, the psychological game is very big. You need to believe that you can do it, that you're not, too old or too busy or too whatever you think you are. You need to distance yourself from the memories of failing at language learning at school, because many people actually have those memories because the school system is so inefficient when it comes to teaching languages. You might not have those. I liked it even at school, but I do realize there's many inefficiencies, and many people actually believe that they can't do it as a result of their exposure to being taught at school. So you might be carrying a lot of that baggage with you and not really believing that you can do it, and kind of going at it half-heartedly and not really thinking that it's possible for you. Or later down the road, when you are ready to speak, you might freeze up. And again, it is very important to build that confidence and to build that belief that you can do it. So I advise anybody to work on that. Especially, it is extremely important for people that are just starting to pick up a second or third language. Usually seasoned language learners, they don't have that problem. They've already learned a few languages. They know that they can do it. So it's like you don't really have to convince a polyglot that they can handle the next language, because they have the proof and they've done it. But if you've never done it before, or if you've learned, one foreign language, but it took years and you don't believe you can learn a second one, whatever your situation might be, it is important to address that. And it is important to see examples of people around you that have done it, to see that it is possible when you take charge of your own learning. I firmly believe that languages are something that somebody cannot just pour this information in your head, and you cannot expect a teacher to teach you a language. They can help and guide you along the way, but at the end of the day, it is you that must teach yourself. Languages are to be learned, not taught. And a lot of the work that goes behind them is about your own doing. You will see that many of the people that actually, they can say that school worked for them with language learning is because they did also a lot of learning by themselves. They did a lot of exposure by themselves. They had a lot of fun with the language by themselves. And that is important. And it is also important to realize that we need to remove a lot of those psychological blocks before we learn a language in order for it to work well. What if you can't though? What if you're finding it super hard to be confident, to believe that you can do it? What if you really lack that confidence and you think that you cannot do it, that you're not one of those people, that you don't have the language gene, that it's going to be harder for you than it is for other people, that you already failed miserably at it and you can't really do it, or that you're too old to do it, that you don't have enough time to do it, that you would need to live in the country, you would need to go back to your childhood and start from scratch. Any of those limiting beliefs. What if you can't overcome them? What do you do then? This is what I want to dedicate this video to, because I think that many of my viewers would already know that that I really believe in the psychological aspect of it. I really believe in how important your mindset is when you learn a language, but I have never spoken about how to tackle that. And in this video, I want to go over that by using a concept that has been used since antiquity, and that is the idea of an alter ego. Now, if you have never heard of an alter ego before, it is as an alternate self that you have almost. You're able to step aside from your usual personality and take on a little bit of different characteristics that you might have. Examples of that, which you might have heard, are, for example, Sasha Fierce, the alter ego of Beyonce. So in Beyonce's case, she has spoken how she's this timid girl that would sing in a church choir, and she would sing completely different types of songs, and then all of a sudden she has this music that is so different than the one that she started out with, and she has to perform on stage in front of thousands of fans, and she has to dance provocatively, and she has to just be this completely different person. And so that's how she adopted this alternate personality of Sasha Fierce. And she speaks about this, that, you know, the second that she puts on the costume and she hears the music and she steps on the stage, it's like a different person takes over. And actors also do this, of course, in whenever they're playing a role on stage, on, you know, or in a movie, wherever. They have this, they kind of step into different shoes and they act through a different lens. It's also very common in the sports world. I've watched a lot of interviews with boxers that say, you know, they're not really this person of the ring, that they are, you know, much more different, much more normal people. But then when they step on the ring, it's this type of, you know, the stare downs in boxing matches and everything, that they become like a completely different person the second they are on that ring. They rein in their emotions, they act in a different way, they, you know, they look in their opponent's eyes in a different way. They just have this completely different demeanor on stage, on the boxing ring. And so that is, you know, a lot of performers have it, a lot of athletes do it, obviously actors, just many successful people, but also a lot of people in business have this adopt different personalities in their corporate lives. And I think using an alter ego is especially useful, and it is not about being fake. You know, I think a lot of people have these misconceptions about it being fake. It is not. It is mostly about, as Cicero said, actually, because this idea dates back, you know, thousands of years. So as Cicero said, it is a trusted friend. That is how he described the alter ego. So that is a little bit stepping outside of your own shell, kind of looking at things from a different perspective and just emulating the qualities that you want to see. And it's not about pretending to be somebody that you're not, because we all have different aspects of ourselves. We're not just one dimension of human beings, and we have one true self, and that is who we are. We're different, and we're different in different stages of our lives, and we just step on different stages every single time, because you are going to be different in your home, and you are going to exhibit different qualities when you go to your workplace, right? And you are going to would exhibit even more different qualities if you need to perform on stage somewhere. We all have different parts of our personality depending on the different stages of life that we act on. So it is mostly about using the aspects of your personality and the skills and the abilities that you have, depending on the arena on which you're stepping and on which you're playing, and on what, you know, what the different stage, circumstances, etc. requires, rather than being fake or something of the sort. No, we just have different aspects of ourselves that we show up at different times. There's actually been studies also done on the benefits of this. To give a real quick example of a 2016 study in which there were 5-year-olds that were given a concentration task. It was tedious, but it was described to them as if it was something very important. And there were 2 groups of children, one of which was taught to think to themselves, okay, am I working hard enough? Am I doing this well? And the other was taught to embody a favorite superhero. And in this case, it was Batman. So the kids that embodied Batman were actually much more successful at this concentration task, because they stepped out of their own lens and they were like, okay, what would Batman do in that case? You know, how hard would he work? And that completely changed their focus and completely changed their way of thinking, and allowed them to exhibit qualities that are hard to exhibit for a 5-year-old, you know, such as extreme concentration. And they did much better than the other group that were not embodying Batman. So that can also be, superheroes are actually a great example of an alter ego, because I believe all of them have one. I can't think of a superhero right now that doesn't. You know, Batman and Bruce Wayne, and Superman and Clark Kent. You know, all of them have these different personalities depending on who they need to show up with. Superman is Superman when he's saving the world, but then he needs to be Clark Kent in his normal life when he's trying to blend in with society and not draw too much attention to himself. So you can do that too. If you adopt an alter ego, it is like you're distancing yourself from your doubts, from all of those negative emotions that I spoke about in the beginning of this video. Like if they're stopping you from you know, relaxing and speaking a language well, or if they're stopping you from believing you can do it and you just kind of can't distance yourself. If you adopt an alter ego, you're able to distance yourself from those emotions and to just acknowledge them, but also act as if through another lens and showcase a different part of your personality. So how can you do that? How can you take advantage of the alter ego? A lot of people do it. But as I said, a lot of celebrities, we can't really sit them down for an hour-long interview and ask them how exactly they do it. But somebody who actually wrote a great book on it is Todd Herman, and the book is called The Alter Ego Effect. As I said, this is not a new idea. It does go back to antiquity, but he does a really good job of just summarizing what it is, going really into detail on how to create your alter ego. I would certainly recommend you to read this book. It is one of my favorite books. I've read it. I think it's awesome. I'm gonna link it down below in case you're interested to know more. And I'm gonna summarize real quick about, you know, how you can do it, what I've learned from interviews with celebrities, from that book, from you know, different writings of ancient authors, just what I've learned from the different explorations that I've had of the alter ego theory, because I think it's fascinating. So a good first step is to actually name your alter ego, because when you give it a different name, it becomes much easier for it to become like a separate thing and something outside of you and something that is not your usual self that has all these doubts. So give it a name. Once you give it a name, it's good to see what qualities it has. So maybe your alter ego is somebody that is an excellent language learner and is a polyglot that's learned many languages, and they have this confidence that they can do it. They know that they can do it. They know exactly how to do it. They've done it many times, and they have all the confidence in the world when they're speaking with native speakers. And so you give that alter ego a name, you give it you know, different qualities. You maybe take an inspiration from other polyglots, for example, or perhaps you take an inspiration from, I don't know, like the kids did, Batman, and imagine how Batman would learn a foreign language. Or, you know, a favorite polyglot that you admire, or anybody, just could be a leader, could be somebody that you know in your life that, you know, you think has great qualities to learn the language. Whoever you think has those qualities that you're looking for, be it confidence, be it know how to learn languages, be it the ability to concentrate well, the ability to build a routine that is fun. Just imagine what qualities that alter ego has. And it is good to give that alter ego qualities that you're lacking or that you think that you can't deal with, because the truth is you're not lacking those qualities. You just, you know, again, we're working with a lot of limiting beliefs here. So if you think that you can't do something because of X, Y, and Z, imagine an alter ego that can do all of those things and that has those qualities that you think are lacking within yourself. And give it those qualities. Do not do too many at the same time. Let's say do a few so that you don't get overwhelmed. And keep those qualities in mind. So then imagine, once you have that alter ego in your head that has, you know, certain qualities that you gave it, a name, perhaps an origin story like superheroes do, come up with, you know, how they came to be the way that they are. Because what you want to do is distance from your own past experience with language learning if it's bad, and from your own background and from your own experience. And you want to create new ones. So see, if you're creating this alter ego to learn a language, imagine what kind of background they've had, how much success they've had with languages, what qualities they possess, and imagine how they would act if they were you. You're trying to learn a new language. How would you act if you were this alter ego that you named and created? You would act differently. You would not act like the way you have acted up until now when you haven't seen much success, right? You would act in a completely different way. You would act through a different lens. That person would do things very differently than your past self has done them. That person is confident that they can do it. That person knows how they can do it. How would they act? Act as if. Act as if you were that person, and imagine how they would react in this situation. Imagine how they would learn languages, and every time you come to your book to learn a language, you adopt this alter ego. Use any props that might be necessary. For example, when you open your introductory book, that's when that alter ego comes on. Or when you wear specific types of clothing, or when you're located in a certain location, or when you put on your glasses and you feel really smart. Whatever it is, it's good to connect it to something physical so that you can have this connection that, okay, now we're acting as this other person and I'm gonna learn this and I'm gonna crush this language and I'm gonna do great. But it's important to have that physical connection of location or way you look, or, you know, something that you put on, something that changes, or maybe you just crack open the book and you change, but it's good to have that. And that's when you allow this other part of your personality to shine through, because as I said, when you're creating an alter ego, you're not being false, you're just being inspired by somebody else, be it a superhero that you already admire, or a business leader that you admire, a polyglot that you admire, or somebody that you're just building up in your head like a completely new image, where you could be attributing qualities from pulling from different people, giving it a new name, whatever. But whatever your alter ego, you're using it to be inspired, and you're using it to imagine what would that person act like in my situation, and how can I make that work? How can I get inspired from that, step aside from myself, and use those qualities to make language learning work? And that is especially helpful if you have a lot of those doubts that you can do it. Try it. I have not tried it with language learning personally, because I've always had fun with it and I've always enjoyed it, and I haven't had these beliefs that I can't do it. But sometimes with other areas of my life where I need this little boost, I will imagine how somebody that had those skills that I need would act. You know, in other areas where I feel like I'm lacking the confidence for this particular task, okay, how would a person that's like super seasoned in this task act? And it's been very helpful for me. And as I said, it's a very popular concept. If you Google it, you're gonna see how many famous people have used it. And it's being used for a reason, because it's really great. So check out the book, as I said, if you want to learn more, because it goes into a lot of detail on how to create the alter ego. I think, yeah, it's something that's been talked a lot about over the centuries, but I don't think anybody describes it as well as in a step-by-step guide as Todd Herman does. So I would recommend you to check that out, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. I'm really passionate about this concept and I believe it's awesome. So I'd love to chat about it, and to also, if you're already familiar with it and if you have used it in different aspects of your life, I would love to hear the story of how you've done that. But in particular with regards to language learning, I think it can be wonderful to step aside from the negative self-talk that many of us have when it comes to languages. Let me know how it works. I wish you the best of luck and see you soon. Bye bye.